Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, and I cannot tell you how excited I am for this video. I'm going to be sharing a remarkably robust, holistic method for really developing all four of the core language skills. So reading, writing, listening, and speaking. But we are emphasizing really driving progress with our spoken fluency over the next few weeks. And as I always do, I'm not just going to describe the method and say, go off and try it. I'm doing it with you. So as I described in the previous video, please check that out, linked here if you haven't seen it. My Mandarin Chinese right now is at a stage where I've spent quite a bit of time learning the grammar, learning loads of words, trying things out, listening, reading. I can't speak very well. I'm very unconfident. I'm very anxious about speaking. And I've only had one real conversation ever in my life in Mandarin Chinese. So I'm at a place where over the next few weeks, I'm determined to finally turn that corner, cross that bridge, and become a confident speaker of Mandarin Chinese. At the very least, a comfortable conversationalist where I can enjoy real interactions, rich dialogue and discussion with native speakers in the language. So without further ado, let's jump in. I should also mention this video is sponsored by the kind folks over at Skillshare, and I can't move on without giving a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who will be getting lots of bonus content from this series. Okay, so I'm going to break this method down into multiple very clear steps, and the first few steps are optional. I've designed this method to be as flexible and accommodating as possible. So these first few steps, you either may not want to do them, maybe you think it's too intense or not something you'd find interesting, or you may not have those resources available on hand, but I also will try to help out with that as well. So let's start with step one, which is going to be to find a podcast that is appropriate for your listening comprehension level. So in my case with Mandarin Chinese, I really struggle listening to authentic podcasts. They're just too difficult for me. So what I did is I found a really solid intermediate level podcast called Inspire Mandarin, and it's perfect because she speaks more slowly. She occasionally does get carried away and speak more quickly, but that actually helps because it kind of gives me a varied level of challenge throughout the whole episode. They're like 10 minutes long, roughly, really solid. So for me, that was perfect. If you are more advanced, then pick something more advanced. Now, what I will say here is that if you don't have one of these podcasts for the language that you're learning, please post in the comments of this video. I am very fortunate to have an incredibly engaged and knowledgeable and diverse audience on this channel. And so if you are looking for an intermediate podcast in Japanese and you don't have one, post in the comments and somebody will probably have a suggestion for you. Now, when you have found this podcast, pick an episode that seems interesting, and we're gonna start doing some transcription. Now, don't panic, okay? I have documented myself doing this very recently, so I'm gonna leave a link to a playlist right here and in the description where I chose my podcast episode and I went through the process of transcribing this in real time. So I did not know what to expect. Give yourself a chance here, right? It's gonna be challenging, but just work your way through it. Now, I told you I would make this method flexible. So if you do not want to do transcription, then you could also use a pre-made transcript. Lots of languages have podcasts available that have a transcript, so you could use that as well. But I will tell you, if you do the transcription step, it is unbelievably helpful for your listening comprehension skills. And it will take time, but it will get easier. And it will get easier quite quickly, which is a fantastic sign of your listening skills improving. So what I did is I transcribed this and then I put that transcription on Journaly, which you will also see in that series. I think it's episode 3. Journaly is a website that I built, so I have a huge bias here, but I'm using it because this is exactly what I built that tool for. It's fantastic. So I wrote my transcription on Journaly. So that was my best effort. Again, you can see all the details about how I did that in that series, but I posted my best effort of a draft of transcribing one full episode of the Inspire Mandarin podcast. Now, that episode was about building habits, which is a critical point here later on. Now, step 2 is to get feedback on that transcript, right? So again, on Journaly, what happens is people can come and give you feedback. So with a transcription, I posted a link to the original episode. And so what people did is they came in and they went through and they helped me either fill in the gaps. So there were some things I just couldn't hear. I couldn't get it. They helped me fill those gaps in. And then there were some things that I got wrong. And so people helped me, correct those mistakes. And people even left really helpful cultural notes like, hey, this is a more common word in Southern China or in Taiwan, or, oh, this is a sort of alternative you might see in more colloquial speech. So it was a very enriching process. Now, right before we get to the next step, I think it's time for a quick mention about today's sponsor, Skillshare. Now, Skillshare is a platform where you can take classes on anything from art and design to productivity, business, creative writing, and so much more. Now, one of the reasons why I love having Skillshare as a sponsor is that the community and range of classes is just so vast. So this year, I really want to become more active on Instagram and also find my own voice and style on the platform. So I took a class by Tyson Wheatley called Mobile Photography Basics for Instagram Success. And it was very helpful. I think the most useful things were that he shared so many different apps and tools for Instagram. And I really enjoyed the section on storytelling strategy, as I really want to cultivate my own storytelling presence on Instagram. Skillshare enables you to really explore your creativity for less than $10 per month with an annual subscription, but they've also kindly offered a free trial of premium membership to the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now, step 3 for me in this case was using an app called Skritter, and I will leave an affiliate link down below in the description in case any of you want to try Skritter out and support my channel. But Skritter is great for Chinese or Japanese, right? So I was able to create a sort of flashcard deck on Skritter, pulling out all the new words and vocab that I learned from doing that one episode of transcription. And I learned about 85 to 100 new words and phrases from that one single episode. It was fantastic. 85 to 100 words for a 10-minute episode, it's not overwhelming, it's not crazy, but it's really a good amount to sort of definitely enrich your vocabulary and push you forwards. And this is where I got to so far while documenting that process. Now what we're going to be doing is really, really critical and very exciting. This is where the process of writing in a foreign language comes in and can seriously boost your speaking skills. Most people really don't practice writing a lot, and I think writing is one of the most undervalued, under-practiced tools for learning a language. So today, what I'm going to be doing is moving this to the side and grabbing my laptop, and I'm going to be going back onto Journaly. And here's the plan. For this step of the process, I'm now going to try to write a post on Journaly that is about the same topic of the podcast episode that I transcribed. Because I have now listened a whole bunch, I've written the transcript, I've studied those words on Skritter in my case. You could use Anki, Memrise, any type of flashcarding system you want, or you could skip that, right? If you don't like flashcarding, if you don't like that type of learning, then you could skip this part. The point is that to some level, you have now picked up all these new words, you have all this context, but very importantly, you have a piece of written text that is from a native speaker from this podcast that is correct, is accurate. So what we can now do is we can use that transcript, we can use all the words that we've learned combined with stuff we already knew. And in my case, I'm going to use some very simple tools like Google Translate to sort of help me just figure out some basic grammar and sentence structures when I get stuck. And we're going to write a post on Journaly about that same topic, but it's going to be about ourselves. In my case, it's going to be about my own interesting situation that I have right now, trying to develop new habits, new routines and rituals, because I just moved across the world back to the UK. So I'm going to be definitely producing my own language, right? But I'm going to have this amazing transcript of very natural native speech, right? And it's written, but it's a written representation of spoken language. So I can use not just the words I learned, But I can use this as a template, right? I could take certain phrases, certain constructions that she used, and I could try to use them myself, but within the context of my own language that I'm creating. And so this is fantastic because the thing about writing is that it gives you a way to slow down and really think about the speech, the language that you are producing in a way that you just can't do when you're speaking. So in the last video, I explained how when I try to speak in Mandarin, I just get overwhelmed right at the beginning. It feels like I'm stumbling. I just don't know what's going to come out. I don't know how to start. That goes away with writing, and it allows you an opportunity to build your confidence creating language. Gives you an opportunity to think critically, carefully about the sentences that you're constructing and practice that and build up some automaticity, some confidence, which will translate to when you start speaking. It's ultimately still production of language. Not to mention that writing is a fantastic way to really internalize all those words you've learned, right? So even if you don't like flashcarding, I like doing that just as a way to really sort of set them in and sort of funnel them down from my short term into that medium sort of long-term memory. But it really comes together when you start using those words in some form of production of language. So writing is a fantastic way to do that. Now, the next step after that is going to be getting that corrected, right? So once again, I can use Journaly to get corrections from native or advanced speakers. And so it's like filtering. It's like there's multiple layers of filtering my mistakes, right? I got to filter my mistakes when I was transcribing, right? And now I got to learn like, oh, this is the correct way. This is what she actually said. Now I can take that correct speech, try to sort of morph it and form it into my own speech, but then I can get those mistakes corrected as well. So what happens is we arrive at a point where I have this beautiful thing, this post that I wrote. It's my language. I used what I know is correct, authentic, idiomatic language in my post, got it corrected. And then the final step of this first round of the method is I will then have a conversation with a native speaker in Mandarin Chinese, and the topic will be, in this case, building habits. So now I get to take this post I have written, gone through all these layers to arrive at something that is a correct form of my own expression, and now I can take that with me to the stressful situation of speaking to a native speaker live. It's still going to be stressful. It's still going to be hard. But the point is that it is going to be so much less stressful knowing that I'm coming in with these tools, right? I'm not going to follow a script. I'm not going to come in and just try to speak like a robot. No, I'm going to come in intentionally unscripted. I'm going to intentionally try my best to be natural, to improvise, to come up with new things. But the point is that I now have this sort of island, if we think about the islands technique, right? And I can come into the conversation knowing I've got the words I need. I've got certain sentence structures, certain things. I've got the ideas figured out. So it's my job now to just take it to the next level of expression. I can't think as much now about every single sentence, but I've already helped myself. So I've given myself the best possible chance of having a successful interaction with this native speaker. And if the conversation starts to glide off track, it starts to get to a place where I'm not comfortable, then I can actively bring it back to the things that I have prepared, I'm comfortable with. And I think this is a fantastic way. It's so holistic because we've gone from putting our listening skills through a really intense test here. We've improved them, we've fine-tuned them by getting those corrections. We've learned new words, and then we're reading that transcript, right? So we're improving our reading skills. Then we've gone to writing, and we've sort of practiced writing, which is an excellent way of producing language, being thoughtful about the language we produce, being thoughtful about using the vocab we want, using the grammatical structures we want. We've gotten feedback on that, and now we're bringing it full circle, and it's gonna be a serious boost to our spoken fluency, but also our confidence as we try to have that real life interaction in the language we're learning. And that's one complete cycle of this method. So I am now going to write that post. That will be the next episode of this series. I'll talk about it in more depth. We'll go through it. And then after that, we will be seeing a live conversation I will have with a native speaker, and you will get to see for yourself that this works. But again, the first time through, it's not gonna make you perfect. It's not gonna make you an awesome, fluent, super amazing speaker. Let's see what happens with my Chinese. But then I'll do it a second time, right? I could choose to stay on the same topic and further develop, right? I could practice again, write a second post on Journaly, really think back through the conversation I had, look at my mistakes that I made, or I could completely change the topic and go through a whole second round. And there's gonna be so much overlap, so much new vocab, but also repeat vocab. And doing this a few times is gonna get me to a place where now I can try to have a completely spontaneous conversation, unplanned, with no preparation. And I guarantee that at that point, I will be so much better prepared, because you get past that really tough psychological barrier of just starting, right? You now know I can get started, I can get moving, I can express ideas, I can engage in a conversation. And that's really the hardest part. And with that, I will leave you for now. I look forward to writing my post. I'm a bit nervous about it, but it should be a really fun thing to document. So I'll see you in the next episode. And please let me know in the comments if you're gonna be joining me or what you think about this method.